Welcome to the Crypto Podcast. You can find all our episodes on the cryptopodcast.org, but also on BitChute and YouTube. And I'd also like to thank my listeners because I just learned this morning that I went from the top 5% to the top 2.5%. So I just thank you for that. I'm also a podcasting coach because I've got further podcasts: the Awakening Podcast, Exposing Fraud and Corruption; the Meditation Podcast to help you chill; Learn Polish podcast to learn Polish, obviously; and the Speaking Podcast to help you improve your speaking skills. Find everything on bio.link/podcaster. Today, my guest, he's the current community manager at 21.co, which is a parent company of Amun and 21 Shares. He's also a podcaster, which I always love speaking to podcasters, and a YouTuber, and an ex-Ethereum miner, and I can understand that, so we'll touch on that. Please welcome Crian Padayachee. Did I do it justice?
You did it justice. And hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me, Roy.
So I suppose let's start off with your crypto journey.
Well, I'm a technical person, like a hardware computer geeky. You can blame my older brother for that. It was 2017. I'm like, oh, okay, this is something about making money from graphics cards and letting graphics cards do calculations. And I had started, the SETI program. There was another one which allowed you to use your computer for folding, I think it was called, to sort of figure out chemical analysis for molecules. I'm like, okay, let's try this one out. And I tried it out. Ethereum was $70 for an ETH at that point. Like, oh, this is working and money is coming in. And that was the start of my crypto journey.
And because I suppose the last year has kind of been weird for miners, depending on where you were. First of all, the electricity prices, because, some people were able to do calculations and kind of go, okay, when I pay this amount over a certain period, I know some people, they were getting a return in 4 months, others, they had calculated for 2 to 3 years. But I suppose the first hiccup that you came across was electricity prices going through the roof.
Not so much, because we're here in Taiwan.
So that's only a European thing and an American thing, basically.
Prices still went up, but it went up, in US dollars from 7 cents a kilowatt to 9 cents a kilowatt. So not a huge deal.
Okay. So basically with Ethereum 2.0, that kind of just turned off the tap, I assume.
Exactly, like no more mining. I did switch my mining rigs to mine Ethereum Classic, but to tell your listeners, we're losing 5 American cents per graphics card per day, which is, it's not that bad, but it might add up to a lot after a year or so. But yeah, for typical most Ethereum miners, if you look on Reddit, if you look on YouTube, they're just done. People here in Taiwan that I know, they're like, yep, I'm done. They're selling their graphics cards. They're just out of mining. And some people, they made enough money or a lot of money, so it's fine. Some people didn't break even. You would have seen those videos on the YouTube of people power washing graphics cards in order to sell them. So if you're looking to buy a graphics card, I would definitely suggest buy new.
So I assume, because I remember I was looking at the mining prior to the previous kind of spike, and I had missed the boat and it wasn't adding up. But I know that once it did take off again, the price of graphic cards went through the roof. So I presume they're after tanking as well, no, after this, are they?
Oh yeah, like my current graphics card, I bought a 3070 Ti last year for about 800 US. The price for that now is 600, which is like, it's gone back down to MSRP, right? The suggested manufacturer price. So it's, I guess, GPU manufacturers are making less, but it's still great for normal people.
And you mentioned Ethereum. I'm not sure what name you said it, but that's not 2.0. Is that a different Ethereum? Because I haven't heard of that one before.
So Ethereum Classic is way back in the day when Vitalik Buterin, Charles Hoskinson, and Gavin Newsom, it's not Gavin Newsom, it's Gavin Woods, I believe. They were the guys who created Ethereum. And what happened was somebody found a bug in Ethereum way back in the day, and some guys were like, in crypto, in coding, there's the idea is code is law. We cannot change the code. But Vitalik Buterin was like, we have to change the code. This is a big bug. And so that's where the split happened. The Ethereum Classic became was the original Ethereum, right? And then the new Ethereum, what we know today as Ethereum, was formed, headed by Vitalik Buterin.
Okay, okay. And like, have you done other? Because I've looked at Helium and I went online and it was telling me based on my location, I'll make X amount. And I was like, okay, this is brilliant. It was a complete lie. It's making nowhere near that. Is that kind of a sales strategy that they have to be fraudulent, or have I just been unlucky in the way that it's working?
I would say it's partly sales strategy, partly unlucky, because I know a lot of people who've gone into Helium. They spent a few $100s or euros, right, buying a Helium miner, setting it up. There are a lot of different factors. Like one of the things I wanted to do was try it out here in Taiwan, but like all the Helium miners are in Taipei, which is the other side of the island, and that's where you earn money because you have to have a certain amount of traffic in your area in order to use Helium. And if you're not getting enough people, you're not making money or you're not making HNT tokens. So it's, yeah, 50-50, unlucky, and just a sales strategy.
Yeah, because I'm outside of the city by about 20-minute drive, and I can see, obviously, when you look at the system, you can see in the city center there's way more. So I was assuming that I didn't know how it was working, but so basically I should get somebody that I know in the city center to start using this. It'll be
exactly set
more
it up
profitable.
more down. You'd definitely be making more money.
Yeah, okay. So with the company that you're currently working with, 21 & Co, you might tell me about that. What exactly you're doing?
Sure. 21 Shares is the company, the main company. They sell, I guess in Europe you guys call ETPs, exchange traded products. In the States they call them ETFs, exchange traded funds. They're pretty much the same thing. They're the largest crypto issuer in the world. So you're a regular Joe, like my mom or my dad, or somebody who's not deep into crypto. You're like, I want to buy some Bitcoin. You can go to an exchange where we because we're in Zurich as well, in Germany and a few other places, and say, I'm going to buy ABTC, which is the name of the product. You buy shares in it, and you can redeem those for Bitcoin at some point. They're fully redeemable. That's what 21 Shares does. I work for the Amun side, which you can see the logo if you're watching the video behind me. That is the more crypto DeFi side, which is still the same thing. We do index tokens or basket tokens. So if you're in Ethereum, you buy what's called our DeFi token, and again, not financial advice. You get all the the big projects in Ethereum, Chainlink, Synthetics, Uniswap, all that sort of stuff. So what 21 Co is just a conglomeration of bridging the two companies together to try and sort of make them into one company, whereas before they were sort of running on two separate paths. And I started this week this week Saturday would be like more than a year or so of working there. But I'm a community manager. I talk to people who have bought our tokens. I do podcasts and YouTube videos as well to sort of say, hey, you've bought this. This is what is happening in Ethereum, or this is what is happening in Polygon. This is what is happening on Solana. I do quite a few different things actually.
And when they're buying, is it on your system then? Or is it similar to when you buy a crypto, you can transfer to your own wallet for the safety reasons? Or how is it protected when it's on your system?
So for the DeFi side, the side that I work for, it's done through a MetaMask. When you buy it, it goes straight into your MetaMask wallet. So it's yours, right? We don't custody anything. Anything you buy is yours. On the exchange side, I believe it'll be in your brokerage account. I'm not too familiar with that side because it's not what I deal with, but I know it's done through brokerages and partners and stuff. Like we partnered with a whole bunch of different people. Vinter is one, and there are a bunch of other European organizations.
With MetaMask, because I've used that, but I remember when I was putting it on, looking at the reviews, and it was a lot of kind of 1 star, which is the lowest you can give, and basically saying I've lost everything. It's like, how are people? I think I worked out it was like kind of looked like about 15% negativity, which is huge when you consider what they're doing. How is it so many people are being hacked in that?
It's very easy, right? It's like I guess an easy way would be a keylogger software, right? Somebody sends an email, you click on a link, it installs some software, and That's it. That's as far as you know. Anything you type is being transmitted to somebody in such small amounts of data you wouldn't even notice. Then that person has your passphrase. So in order to someone hack your MetaMask, they need your passphrase. They can get it via keylogger. They can get it via spying on your computer. Another way could be capturing your screen if you're on a Zoom meeting, like we're on a Zoom meeting right now. Um, there are a lot of different ways. There's spoofing sites where someone says, hey, go to, like, this is the legitimate site, or like Uniswap is a big site. You can go to swap tokens, and they make a fake Uniswap site that looks exactly the same. You connect your MetaMask wallet. As soon as you connect it, they've sucked out your key phrase, and there you go, you get hacked.
Yeah, it's a shame because it's kind of, like turning away a load of people based on something like. And I've heard of people going into webs because I seen one of your videos talking about the, I don't know how you pronounce it, fishing, fishing, fishing without a
Just
fishing
like
rod.
fishing. Yeah, exactly.
And basically somebody done a Google search to go on the thing, and it was the top one that popped out, but it turned out to be a fraudulent site, and he lost something like $100,000 on it.
There's some terrible losses. I've heard of horrible numbers that people have lost. So people have to be safe. I mean, that's why I always suggest two things for people. One is this, which is a security key. It's really cheap. It's probably like 30 euros. So it's the only way someone can get into my Gmail or my crypto account is they have to physically have this key plugged into a USB. That's one suggestion. The other suggestion, this is a bit more expensive. It's about 100 euros. And again, none of this is sponsored. I'm just saying people should be safe. This is a Trezor. I mean, people have heard about it. Hardware wallets, basically, where your crypto is actually in this wallet. The only way for somebody, again, to get your crypto is come to your house in Taiwan or my house in Taiwan and say, hey, give me your money. And that would be pretty difficult to do.
Okay, so the Trezor one, because it's a ledger that I use, so you'd recommend that. And the other, that blue device that you said is 30, that's basically not a kind of hardware wallet. It's just something that protects your computer that you plug in and yes?
Exactly. It's Google call it, they have a device called a Titan key. You can go Google Titan key. This is made by Sweets. It's called a YubiKey. There are a lot of similar devices. You could just have a look, and it's basically, like people talk about 2FA, two-factor authentication. This is 3FA or multi-factor, where you've got your password, you've got your code sent to your cell phone, and you have this thing over here that when you plug it in, that's the only way you can access like your main email account or your crypto account. There are a bunch of places that support it: PayPal, Google, Binance, Coinbase as well. They do a bunch of that stuff.
And have you ever come across where something like that breaks? Because all technology fails at sometimes. Like I was wondering that. Like, I mean, I know you've got the recovery phase with your wallet, but with that, how does that work if that decides to just break on you?
So like one of the first things YubiKey suggests is make sure you always have two keys. So I've got a spare that's not used, and that's very unlikely to break. If that breaks, for example, my Gmail or my Google, what would happen would just be in recovery would be a lot longer. I have to send, like a passport, ID number, that sort of stuff to get my account back.
Okay, cool. So I know that you're a podcaster, and I was looking. You've done a lot of show. I mean, you've just celebrated your year. I believe it's July or June that you started. You've 113 episodes, so you're cranking them out. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Not intentionally part of the job, but it's been really fun.
And I see it's Captivate that you're using. Did you start off with Captivate, or did you switch over from some other platform?
I started off with Captivate because I have another podcast, a gaming podcast that's just for fun. It's the reason I actually got this job at the company. Is I pitched as my job application. I'm like, hey, I think we should do a podcast at this company. And my boss at that time was like, oh, that's a good idea. And do you know how to do a podcast? I'm like, yeah, look, I do. I've done another podcast for a year. And yeah, that's how I did it. We started with Captivate. I liked the idea of, like unlimited downloads for Captivate. And they do like analytics and stuff for free, and it works out really well. And they're a UK-based company. I'm pretty sure. I forgot what part of the UK. But I'm enjoying them so far. I'd like to try a bunch of other places, but just now I'm like as a podcaster, you're always stuck into a place. If you want to move your show across, it's a gigantic pain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen some of them that they're not too bad. You know, it's just a case of the email and you tell them the RSS feed and they kind of liaise with each other. But I know some
Nice.
aren't, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm with Anchor and Podbean and yeah, happy enough with, you know, with them. So with Lunar, like, was that something that you had on your system promoting, and like, what's your thoughts on what happened there?
So Luna, we on the 21 share side, they had an ETP. You know, they did their really best. And again, they don't promote it. They were like, okay, you know, this is what it is. You decide if you want to buy or not. On the Amun side, we didn't have anything to do with Luna. But again, this is one of those things in the system where loads of people lost their money, famous people who had bought into Luna. I mean, basically what happened, it was an algorithmic stablecoin. When things started to not be on par, bad things happened, and you know, people at that point, the Luna Foundation was just pumping more money into the system. It wasn't working. People were cashing out, and then things crashed. And you know, 40-50 billion dollars later, here we are. You know, the guy Dokon is you know, he says, I'm not on the run, but Interpol said you are on the run. And that's unfortunately where things go. I believe in California as well, they're thinking about introducing a bill to sort of say no more stable coins. This could be at the federal level, I believe, as well. But yeah, so stable coins like USDC or USDT are fine. Algorithmic stable coins are the problem, is what most people believe. There's still lots of crypto people who believe in the idea of it. But we'll just have to wait and see how that sort of unfolds.
And what's your thoughts on regulation?
I think regulation is good. Like, I mean, there are a lot of people who are, libertarian, oh, big government is bad, etc., etc. You know, I lived in Ireland, I lived in South Korea and Taiwan, and I would say, you know, the Irish government, when I was living there, takes care of people. You know, there are parties who might disagree with that, you know, be the Fine Gael or Fine Gael side, but I think government helps, and I think regulation helps to protect people. I think crypto is a wonderful instrument for people to sort of have some sort of ability to invest, right? If you're not earning a lot of money, getting into the stock market is hard and risky. I mean, crypto, you can get in on Binance with a $10 minimum. It's there's that thing. There's also the idea of transferring stuff. There's the NFT side of things. I interviewed a guy who's building, camping properties and stuff, and he's doing that through NFTs, and I think that's fantastic, right? How could I invest in a property development company as somebody living in Taiwan, without going through reams and reams of paperwork and documentation and waiting months and stuff? But I think regulation has to exist. I think it will be good. There'll be pain. Prices will go down. But at the end of the day, it'll make it a safe environment for people to say, hey, oh, you're working crypto? Oh, cool. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I see there are rules about it. I can feel like there's some safety when I put money into the system. I think we're not going to have any solid rules for another 3 to 4 years.
Just on the Irish government, because being Irish, there was a time I used to think they had our back. And you mentioned Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, they've been together for so many years. And yeah, they brought in all the vulture funds. So there's so many people now that have lost their property. And I've read the book Tax Haven Ireland, and I encourage everybody to read that book, because it's not about Ireland, it's about all the corporations, which you're probably familiar with: Microsoft, Facebook, LinkedIn. The whole lot of them are there, as well as we've got all the top pharmaceutical companies. And it's a big loophole, and especially for all the vulture funds that came in that are grabbing all the properties, they're paying nothing in tax. I know. So do these companies, the governments have your back? No. So
go ahead.
No, because I'm curious as well, based on, because you're in Taiwan. I can just is that a danger? Because I mean, it's very hard to know what's actually happening, but when somebody's on the ground, because we're hearing a lot of bad things about China and Taiwan, is that really true, or what's the real situation?
It's so, Nancy Pelosi came to visit. It's a good question. Thank you for asking. It was tense. People were worried, and people are still worried. I had friends who, lifelong Taiwanese. I mean, most people my age, I'm going to be 40 this year, they're people who are like, I'm staying in Taiwan for the rest of my life. I was a teacher for 10 years. I taught kids, and always used to ask Taiwanese kids, would you consider living overseas? 90% of Taiwanese kids would say no. They love Taiwan, they love the life, they love the food. Now people my age in Taiwan, they were like, yeah, I want to get a second passport just in case China invades. Now, when Nancy Pelosi came, there was a blockade that was tense. It's now over with. Um, China's it's a lot of posturing. It's a lot of, there's how many is it, like 100 kilometers between Taiwan and China. There's an air defense zone where they send planes in, and now we launch planes, and that's it. And the planes talk to each other in the air. Nothing bad happens there. It's just a lot of posturing. Is not as bad as it is. I think a lot of the media makes it worse than what it would be, because Taiwan has always been ready for this. The Americans gave us, nuclear technology in the 50s, right? When Taiwan was set up. The Japanese have strong ties to Taiwan because they controlled Taiwan back in the day. We have TSMC as well, which is the people who just, made the 6 nanometer chip for the iPhone 14s, right? And again, we have TSMC is so far ahead in chip technology, right? The Chinese did come and take everything out. They wouldn't just get TSMC. We have all these other semiconductor companies, big technology companies for memory, for your phones, for your smart devices. That would all stop, and nobody in the world wants that, which is why the Americans stationed Marines, the Australians send some people, the Japanese send some people. If something ever happened, it would not just be Taiwanese people, it would be all these other countries say, hey, it would give China some thought and say, okay, if we do this, it's going to be, really would be World War III. Not like the Ukraine situation, right? Where, like if China came, we know for us to retreat to, right? We're surrounded by an ocean. We just have to jump into the ocean and swim south to the Philippines or north to Japan. That would be the only place.
Okay. Very interesting, because that's something obviously mainstream media, they never tell you the truth. There's always lies that they're telling you. So just curious, for people that are kind of trying to decide to get into crypto, like how would you kind of advise them on what to pick and what to choose and what way to go about it?
Sure. I would say there are a lot of things. There are a lot of websites. I would say go to coinmarketcap.com. Have a look at the prices, have a look at the charts, right? And see what's there. Then from there, you say, okay, these are the top 5. This strikes me as interesting. Watch some videos, read some articles, look at some price charts, right? Look at, do the traditional idea and say, okay, I've got some stocks, I've got some mutual funds, I've got some blah, blah, blah. Mix it up and buy a little bit of crypto if you want to, right? Like people suggest 10% if you're just starting, right, off whatever you want to invest per month. I'm going to preface this with not financial advice. I would say with the current way the market is at the moment, and again, people used to say crypto was not connected to equities like stocks, property, that sort of stuff. It has become this way. So a lot of crypto people would have been before would have been like they would have invested in 10 different projects or 10 different coins. They're now doing number 1 and number 2, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum. I would say start off with a little bit of that. And going back to what I said earlier is that if you don't have a lot of money, if you're working a minimum wage job, I remember back in the day, I was earning €8.50 an hour. If you're earning €8.50 an hour, you can still spend, 10 years buying some Ethereum or buying some Bitcoin. And that's another wonderful thing about crypto. It's again, just my belief, right? Do your own research. I think it's not going to go anywhere. If you start now, you could have something in the future to sort of change your financial position all your life.
Excellent. And with the NFTs, because I've looked a lot into that, and gas fees was always one of the things that people were talking about. And then they were using like Polygon, and but with the new Ethereum now, I assume this will give it a little a spark of life as well.
Yeah, it's that was a big misconception with when Ethereum turned off the mining tap, was gas fees would come down. They have come down, but just because people are using the network less because of macro things, stocks, inflation, etc. But gas fees are cheap. I remember gas fees would drop down to $2 this week for a transaction, which is pretty cheap. So yeah, there's no time. There's also Solana. The Solana NFT system is doing way more transactions. And that's also like Do I have any? No, I don't have any Ethereum NFTs just because they're too expensive. But I do a lot of Solana NFTs. I did some Cardano NFTs as well. I did the guy. I'm going to do the guy who's doing the sort of property renovation stuff, right? Because you buy one of his NFTs and you get rights to income from the property he's renovating and stuff. So yeah, NFTs are very doable at right now. You can buy some really cheap stuff for a few dollars or a few euros, and worst come, you have a cool picture. Best, you have something that you can resell for 50, 100x what you paid for it.
I love the smart contract side, as well as protecting artists, as both musicians and painting artists as well, because they're getting the right share. But with the property, I mean, you can actually take a punt on it, and like, because I had the previous guest that I had gone, he went around to the hotels and basically got people to. It was more investors, not holidaymakers, when everything went into lockdown. But there's so many opportunities, and it's still very early days. Most people, they're not getting it, but I can see this is going to be massive. Like,
oh yeah, I can see it as like people know Kickstarter in the States, or like crowdfunding, like NFTs are what are NFTs, crowdfunding, right? You say Roy is writing a book. He's like, hey guys, support my book. I'm selling 1,000 NFTs. You get the digital version of my book. You'll get a printed copy as well. And there you go. You've crowdfunded your marketing, sales, publishing costs all together. And that's the beautiful thing about NFTs, right? You don't have to be somebody who sells out to Penguin or Oxford Publishing, right? You can be somebody, living out in some small place in the countryside. You have 2, 3, 5,000 people who love you and they support your life, and you get to have a nice, happy life, not working for anybody, doing what you love. And I think that's the beauty of NFTs.
And because I've had a load of guests, mainly with the speaking podcast, that are kind of doing books, and I always ask them about, are you self-publishing or, using a publisher, and the amount of people that get shafted by a publisher because, they assume, you have to be in the top 0.0001% to be getting the nice checks coming in the door. Most of them, you have to do all the marketing, and you're lucky to get 50 cents on a book, and maybe $1 if you're lucky. Whereas if you self-publish it, you're just paying the printing costs. If you're able to do it through the NFTs and you're as a PDF, it's not it's done. It's not costing you literally anything besides your time that you initially done. But you've got, if you do 1 of 5,000 or whatever it is, you've got these 5,000 people that have it on their site that people are checking out, but they're also promoting you. And if they're trying to market it to sell it on, once they've read it, I mean, the reality is they can download it and then sell it on as a thing, which you don't care because you're going to get a royalty. I think it's, for so many different people, it's a brilliant model.
Oh yeah. Like I remember somebody actually like did an NFT of a podcast. He was a guy doing research on NFTs, and he did like 10 copies of a podcast episode, and people bought it, and he made some money. I'm like, well, that's cool. I mean, you could be doing that for your podcast, like Roy Coughlan's very first podcast episode. You sell it on 10 years later when you're rich and retired. Yeah, there you go, and you donate it to charity.
No, exactly. And I mean, with the metaverse as well, because like talking to a guy that he was doing leadership and development, and I mean, you could have your podcast in that as well and have so many NFTs connected to it. Like there's a load. We're only just beginning. This is just starting, and as soon as more and more understand it, it'll just grow. I can't see, like, there's so many things that have started and kind of came back a bit, but this is one that I can really see, building momentum. Like some people see the Bored Ape and they just see the pictures and that's what they think NFTs are. But the reality, once you start to understand it, you go, wow, this is going to change everything.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree that there's a lot more to it. The media does NFTs a big disservice by just pounding on the Bored Apes and the 100K, or Seth Green got his Bored Ape stolen, or this guy got his NFT stolen, and or this Snoop Dogg selling NFTs with Eminem, that sort of stuff. There's a lot more, and I think once the sort of the fog around it clears out, I think a lot more people would be understanding. And once they build bridges for people to get into NFTs more, because I think still buying NFTs with your MetaMask is still a little difficult for regular people, I think we'll definitely see an uptake in traffic.
Definitely. And just finally, with your own podcast, because I know I mentioned it earlier, but like, are you doing guests on it, or are you doing solo shows as well?
So with my podcast, I again, this was a format suggested by my former boss. Was we do 3 tokens. So I do a news show on Tuesday, Wednesday, and I do interviews every Friday, Saturday. Why I say 2 days, because it might be Saturday for me because I'm all the way on the other side of the world, and it still might be Friday for some people. So, but yeah, usually like we've only done interviews for the last 20, 30 episodes. Fridays, usually guests, always crypto guests, people who are CEOs or founders or engineers who are trying to do like different things in the space, and it's fun. Just like what you're doing, it's really fun. I think I wouldn't want to stop it.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, no, definitely. Listen, Crian, thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. You might let people know, how can they get in contact with you?
Sure. The best place to find me, I'm always checking Twitter when I wake up in the morning, and I shouldn't be because that's not very healthy, people. Twitter.com/Crian Padayachee, CRIN PADAYACHE. Roy said he's going to include my links in the notes, but yep, Twitter is the best place to find me. It's one of the few apps I have notifications turned on my phone as well. So you're definitely going to get me all the time on there. You can check me out on my podcast, right? The Inside Crypto Podcast. I wish I had a more exciting name for that, but that's just what it is. But those would be the 2 main places. And thank you, Roy, very much for having me on today's show.
No problem at all. So thank you very much. And as mentioned, yeah, I put all the links as well as your podcast on the show. So that's all for the Crypto Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on thecryptopodcast.org. We're on BitChute and YouTube. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, and make sure you give him a 5-star rating as well, because it all helps. We all want to be higher up in the charts. Until next week, take care.